So let's have a look at my sort of series of planes here. I'm not going to go into why I'm going to use a certain plane, but you can see here we start from our large planes and go down to our smaller planes and then our block planes, and then alongside here is a couple of Japanese planes. So same principle, just adjusted differently. So let's just go ahead on. I'm going to start with my number 5 because I generally will use my number 5 for face work. I'll go into why the numbering system is as it is in another video because it just takes too long. If we look at, all right, let's open it up. Here we have our cap iron here. I've just released that on that hinge. That just releases that there, that slides out. Take the blade assembly out here. And then we've got the body of the plane, and we've got the blade assembly. On top of that blade, so our blade's here, you can see the angle, the primary angle here. On top of that is what we call a chip breaker. Just going to remove that chip breaker just with a screwdriver. Just loosen that off. Try not to slide that chip breaker over the front of the blade here. So I just sort of rotate it around and then drop it through that keyhole through here. Right, so let's have a look at this plane iron. What we've got on the back, so the back being the flat surface, ideally we want that highly polished here. So you can see here that it's in reflection. You can see it's not too bad here. And then on the other side, I've ground this angle at a 25-degree angle. And what you should also see on the secondary angle or the micro angle or micro bevel is that we've got a very small, shiny, polished surface there. Should you see it in reflection? Now, if those two edges meet, as with the chisels, two polished edges, we should get a very sharp blade. Demo that. Now, the most important thing about planes or any cutting tool is that they're sharp. So if your plane's not working, more than likely it'll be because it's blunt. So if we just grab a bit of paper and just cut a bit of paper, there's a good example of how sharp that should be. Just cut a bit of paper. If it doesn't cut paper, if it just drags, then we need to sharpen that blade. Okay, so we're going to put this guy back. Okay, so before I tighten this up, we'll notice that the distance between that polished surface of the or back of the plane blade and this chip breaker, I've set that at about 1 millimeter. And the reason for that is that as the shaving comes through and curls over, well, what it's doing by curling over, it's breaking. So that's what this chip breaker, hence the name, its purpose is, and that will reduce tear out. So the closer I put that towards the blade, towards the cutting edge, the more the chip will curl. So and the further back, the less it will curl. Okay, so, and that'll make a difference when we go into another video on different planes and how they're used. I'll go into more detail on why that's important. But generally I'll set my number 5 at about 1 mil. So I'll tighten that up now. Screwdriver, nip it up. Okay. Now we'll drop that back into the plane body here, but I just want to, while the blade's off, I just want to show the components here. Here we've got the frog. The frog is what the blade sits on. I don't know why it's called a frog. What we've got here is the lateral adjustment lever that will tilt the blade from left or right, and that will adjust, the angle of the cut as it comes through the sole. And what we've got here is an adjustment knob which will adjust this Y lever. I don't know whether you can see that, but as I turn that Y lever here will move back and forward. And as I move that in a clockwise rotation, that will engage the blade, so it'll push it, it'll give a deeper cut. And as I turn it anti-clockwise, it'll retract the blade, so we'll get a lesser cut. So always remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Let's drop that back in. It should seat inside and click into that, where that Y lever drops into this gap, into here, this hole in the blade. And then the cap iron should sit on top, and it should just be a little bit of resistance there. So If that's really loose, then we tighten this up slightly, this little screw here. If that's really, really tight, then you want to back that off, because all that's going to do, if it's really tight, is make this very difficult to move back in here. So it's just this, I don't know if you can sort of see the resistance there, it's just sort of a firm click. That's about as much as you want. Now we want to have a look at where is this blade in the body of the plane. And you should be able to see that we've got a fair bit of height here versus nothing here. So I've played around with that lateral adjustment lever. If we have a look at it here, then I want to push that towards the side that's high. So if we look at this side, it's high on your right-hand side, and I want to move this lateral adjustment lever to the side that's high. So let's see it move. All right, we'll check it. Feels pretty good, but what I want to check now is just with a scrap piece of wood, I want to check what that depth of cut is and whether it's parallel to the sole. So let's have a look at that. So I'll just drag a scrap bit of wood across there, taking a shaving there, very heavy cut. Feels pretty parallel, but it's too deep. So I'm just going to adjust that anti-clockwise. Miss clockwise a little bit. I reckon it's still favouring this side a little bit, so I'll just tweak it towards that side. That's much better. You can see there, I don't know whether you can see the little fluffy shaving falling out on both sides onto the bench, but that looks pretty even. All right, so now that's set up pretty well. The other thing that you want to just have a look at is the distance here in what we call the mouth. Now the mouth here should only be, which is the distance between the body of the plane and the front of the knife, that distance should be just slightly larger than the shaving that you want to take. Okay, so, and we can adjust that frog probably, okay, depending on your plane. All right, so let's demonstrate now that we've adjusted that plane. Actually, let's quickly go over a Japanese plane. Same principle, however, we don't have all those knobs and turning bits and pieces. So have a look at a Japanese plane, same principle. Feels pretty good from side to side. If I wanted to engage that blade, I would tap on the back of the blade there. If I want to retract the blade, I will tap on the heel. And that heel, tapping on the back of the heel, will just jar that blade back so that it will bring that blade and give you a lesser cut. If I'm left or right, then I need to tap the blade itself, either left or right, into there so that we get that into alignment. Okay, let's demo just the cutting action of this. Now here we've got just a bit of timber. It's been machine plane, so it's nice and flat machine plane, but I just want to demonstrate just with a pencil how out of flat that a machine cut will give you. Right, so have a look at this. Like we've got, I'll keep going. See where that pencil remains? They're our low areas. Now you notice I'm running a half overlap. So I'm not just going side to side, I'm going a half overlap. So let's do that again. So that was one pass from left to right. We'll go another pass. Start in the middle of the mouth here on the edge. I've got a slight angle and I'm pushing straight. I'm pushing parallel with the board. Notice how it's coming out of the center of the mouth. Get rid of that shaving because it'll jam up in the mouth here. Now I've got a full cut through here. There's no pencil lines that remain. Now I want to point that where I've left off here at the center of the mouth again for my half overlap. Nice and clean. It's probably favouring that side a little. one more. Done. Super clean. I don't know whether you can see on that photo, but have a look at the glisten off that surface. It is just polished. Pretty much ready for a finish. So, thanks.